If you thought last season was deep,
You haven't heard anything yet.
this is boots to boots.
The moments where everything you thought you knew about yourself changes.
Because this is the stuff no one wants to talk about.
But it's what needs to be talked about.
Healing doesn't happen alone.
It happens through shared experience.
So lace up your boots.
Join the conversation.
We'll be talking to you.
Today's guest has been the voice behind some of wrestling's biggest moments. From the early days of ROH to everything the brand has become. And he's had a front row seat.
But beyond that, he's my friend and someone who represents the kind of longevity, consistency, and reinvention that is required in the wrestling industry. It is my pleasure to welcome Bobby Cruz to Boots to Boots.
Hello, guys. Steve, how we doing?
Good,
That was
Bobby.
the
How are you?
nicest thing I've ever said about you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the hammer now.
Oh, we got the
No,
questions coming up.
There's
Don't worry.
there's no hammer. We're so happy that you asked to be a guest on Boots to Boots.
My wife caved.
You know,
But I heard you had a great microphone story you wanted to start the podcast with. So
yeah, but can I correct something? I didn't ask to be on. I just asked why I hadn't been on. That's all. There's a big difference.
I mean, is it not?
It's
the
a good
same?
way of asking, to be honest, without asking, to be honest.
No, I will say though, you said, why have I not been on the podcast yet? And I said, actually, I think that's a great idea. Because you have been a part of my wrestling journey, gosh, for nearly as long as it's been, at least 10 years now, through all of the work that I've done with Ring of Honor. And so I think it's a great connection. I am very happy you're being a guest.
And we got to work a few times
Good.
on my end, too, with the ROH and the TNA crossover at that one point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into that, right? That had a lot to do with D.
Absolutely. But let's start at
Well,
let's start
my
with your microphone.
My microphone story. Yeah. So this microphone, I love this microphone, but I haven't used it in months. So in the rare occurrence, I had to do a wild line for ROH TV for whatever reason, screwing something up maybe, which I try not to do. I would just do it on my phone, like a voice memo, and then email it to Nashville, and they would put it onto the episode, and who really knew?
Right.
Well, a few months ago, I mispronounced Isla Dawn's name twice. Like, I'm sorry. I try and keep up with everything or whatever, but I called her Isla Dawn because
Oh,
I see
Bobby.
I can see that.
I see her name. It's like Madonna, La Isla Bonita, kind of thing.
Okay.
It happened once, and then nobody said anything. And then it happened again, and I got a text, and like, we need you to do a wild line, whatever. And they were kind of like, I think maybe because I screwed it up twice, they were like, we're going to send you a really, really nice microphone, which I think is the same one that like Caprice and Ian use for, TV. And so they sent me this beautiful microphone a few months ago when that happened. And I did that wild line for Isla Dawn. And ever since then, it's just been sitting in my office downstairs. Like I haven't used it at all. So I'm actually very excited to dust it off and bring it. I guess that means I haven't made any mistakes since, which is probably a good thing. But
So
anyway,
shocking.
that's
No.
my I haven't made maybe no mistakes since Final Battle 2021. Is that what we're going to talk about? Okay.
Oh.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
We can definitely get there.
We'll get there.
But Steve and I want to start at the beginning, Bobby.
Yeah, so for fans that don't know you and know the full story, and like, how did you get into the wrestling business? And did you ever want to wrestle, or was being a ring announcer always your passion?
Never wanted to wrestle ever. I was
Smart man.
always into, I guess, I was always into the production of things, the music, right? Being a teenager in the 80s and so forth. That's when like late 80s, like WWF theme music, they'd actually sell the tapes or whatever, like stuff actually came out. It was like very, very popular. And so I was always more into that. And Howard Finkel was my guy. Howard Finkel, to me, easily the greatest ring announcer in wrestling ever, and probably will remain that way. So I always would go to like TV tapings and just watch him and listen to him. There was a time right before I started in the business, there was a time where they were doing a lot of TV tapings here in the Northeast. And I think it was like a cost thing at that time. but they were running like the Lowell Memorial Auditorium up here, like a couple hours away from me, small place. They would go there every few months and do TV. So I would always go. And I think it was early 1994. Dating myself, I know. I was very, very, very young. Um, I just sent out some letters to different independent companies that are radio hosts. There's a guy who did a radio show out of Providence, and he had some contacts, some addresses. And this is before email or whatever. So I just wrote some local independent promotions. One of them was Killer Kowalski's place, and he got back to me. And I went up to his school in Malden to meet him. He had a couple older ring announcers he had been using for a while, so I don't think anything was going to break for me there. But he said something to me like, I don't know, I think it was like $5,000 or something like that. And I said, to learn how to ring announce? And he said, yeah, you have to learn how to bump. And I said, oh, okay. So I think that was my only time I went to Walters. It's funny, I did a lot of indie stuff with him later in the days. But and so there's a company at the time, it's called New England Wrestling, very original. And they ran events like right in my area. And they were doing like weekly shows on Sundays, I think it was. And they called me to go basically try out. And I went and did a couple matches, which was a eye-opening experience for me because all I had ever seen was like WWF. And now I'm going to this indie show in front of 300 people. And it was really cool. The atmosphere, the building was awesome. It's the Police Athletic League Hall of Fall River, which is like through indie lore and Northeast wrestling, very, very famous place. Cool
I
balcony,
feel like I might have been
overhangs.
there.
Have you wrestled there?
Maybe. Yeah.
I've definitely wrestled in Fall River before. Yeah.
Okay, it's a PAL hall. Yeah, it's really so that spring of 1994 was my first foray into things, and they liked how the couple matches I did went that day, and they basically offered me the job on the spot from there. But I didn't break out in New England until 2001, I think it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, so then, like, my next question was going to be like, how long you've been the voice of Ring of Honor, right? But how did you get into Ring of Honor then?
So, ironically enough, I was also for this company I started with, became the booker towards the end of my run there, and the owner of the company was always looking like he did a lot of telemarketing shows, like they call them bot shows, right? I don't know how much they exist these days, but he had a lot of them where, like, a local police department would pay a telemarketer, and they'd buy this show basically. So sometimes we'd go to these high schools in front of 500, 600, 700 people because people would like make a donation to the local police or the local fire department, and they get free tickets to this wrestling show at the high school. So those are, but whenever we did those, we always brought in quote unquote names. So we were doing a show close here where we generally didn't bring in outside talent, but the owner at the time wanted me to get somebody. And ECW was pretty much, that's right when I'm around, ECW was closing. And I don't even know how I came across his name or contact or anything. I don't remember. Maybe because he's a Northeast guy that I knew he'd drive in. But Steve Corino ended up booking
You're old school.
him. Yeah, I ended up booking him for that show, along with Alice in Danger and a few other people. Like he had the PWF down in Pennsylvania. And so he had asked me to, hey, I'll drive up, but can I bring a few people with me and put them on the show? And of course, said yeah. And I ring announced as well as book on that particular show. And afterwards, he said, I really like your ring announcing. He said, I run once a month in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And he's like, I really would want you to be my ring announcer. So I think within a couple months, I went down there, and it was a little awkward and uncomfortable. There was a old ECW referee that Corino was very good friends with. His name was Mike Keener. And his brother was ring announcing these shows for Corino at the time. And Steve wanted me now to do this. So it's kind of like, how's this going to,
Awkward.
how's it? It was very awkward. And then Steve came up with the idea. It's like, well, I'll have him do like live interviews in the aisle, before or after matches kind of thing. So I ended up taking over that spot. And then just fast forward a little bit, Corino was very, very involved with 01 in Japan at the time. One of their top in-ring performers, but also like the American kind of booking agent guy. And he got to me in Thanksgiving Day. I'll never forget Thanksgiving Day, 2001. The old AOLIM. D's probably too young for that, Steve. But
I had an AIM. I know what it is.
okay. And he saw me on there and he said, "Hey, 01's going to do 2 USA themed shows in Tokyo in January, and they want you to be the ring announcer." And now I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, what do I have to do? I'm like, do I fly myself or whatever? No, they're taking care of everything and they'll pay you this for the shows or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, Japan. Like I never thought of I at that point, I went to Tokyo to do those shows before I'd ever been to New York City, even as just like a tourist. Like I'd never been to New York City, but yeah. So, and then the next year, the same thing happened. So things had a snowball and I kept working for Steve. Then kind of PWF stuff he was doing kind of stopped for a bit. And he got me on AOL. You call it AIM, right? AIM. Okay. He got AIM another day. I think it was the summer of 03. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about going back to Ring of Honor. And I have this idea to have my own personal ring announcer. And I want you to do it. And he kind of ran the idea past me. And I'm like, wow, sounds amazing. I get to announce one guy. That's all I have to do. Go to a show and announce one guy and be an asshole about it. Like this is perfect.
Natural for you.
Yes, this is perfect. This is how I'm going to go out, by the way. I'm going to make a full circle. Yeah, it was awesome. And the heat we used to get, I mean, people have called some of these Corino intros legendary, and I don't throw that word around lightly, and I don't say it's because of me. It's really because of I just read the stuff on there. But there was he would write them with a guy named Guillotine Legrand, who had a really good mind. Wrestled a little bit, was also a manager in 01 that Steve was close friends with, and they would send me these. I'm like, oh my God, like some of the stuff was just off the charts. Like it was, everyone remembers Josh Daniels was a Northeast indie wrestler for years.
Yeah, I know who Josh is. Yeah.
Yeah, Corino was wrestling him one night, and so the whole list was about little people wrestlers. Like, another one was when he had a match with Punk up near Buffalo, and it was all drugs or drugs that he didn't do or something like. It was just weird. I mean, but it was so fun. But then we started to get
so different from what anyone else was doing at the time.
Yeah, and then we started to get we started to get some babyface reactions. Like the fans started to turn. Like it started off the one of the first couple I did was in the Rexplex in New Jersey, and the fans were yelling "Shut the F up" to me. But then a month or two later, they're like getting into it and cheering it. And Corino's like, "Oh, this is not the way I wanted this to go." So, fast forward real quick. Ironically enough, I think it was the spring of 04. I was booked with Corino in Dayton and Chicago to go do these intros, but Corino got pulled in the last week, maybe by 01. He had to go back to Japan, so he missed those shows. And Gabe Sapolsky had reached out to me, or I said something to him, or okay, what do we do now, basically? And Gabe said, just come do the shows as the ring announcer. And I'm like, straight up as the Ring of Honor ring announcer. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. Let's do it. So I did those shows, and then
sorry, I mean to cut you off. Was there a transition though there when then you started as the regular ring announcer, but they thought you were coming out for Corino?
I don't remember them being any rumblings or anything like the fans wondering what was going on. I don't remember getting any negative reaction when I did those shows. Maybe a month or two later, there was one in Lexington, Mass, outside of Boston, and Gabe asked me to do that one as well. And I did that one, and I don't remember any problems there. But there was then it was 5 or 6 months. I heard nothing. And Harry Silkin called me one day in, I think it was October of 04. And he said, hey, if the ring announcing spot becomes available for Ring of Honor, would you take it? And I'm like, oh, that's a really odd question, because the person that they were using, I knew who it was. And so I said, my answer was, if it becomes available, I'll take it. And he said,
Right.
okay, give me an hour. Yeah, he says, okay, give me an hour. And I think it was like half hour.
Wow.
Yeah. He said,
You got
I think it was
someone
a half hour later, he called me back and he says, okay, it's available. And
Oh my goodness.
oh yeah. Oh, I had heat on me for that one. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, but
yeah.
that was what, 22 years ago? And you're still with the company.
Yeah.
Right.
How does that feel?
I've survived. First of all, as you both know, surviving in wrestling for that long is, no matter what position you're in, is kind of weird. But
Yeah.
surviving like multiple owners now, multiple bookers, like it's been a lot. I'm proud of it. There's no doubt. I mean, I think Ring of Honor has put such a stamp on the pro wrestling industry over the past almost 25 years, and to be there for most of it, and some of the biggest moments, is really cool. But it's like, to me, it's like, if I think back to like day one, my first final battle, even of 04, like, it seems like forever ago. Like, my daughters were like 2 and 5, and now they're both graduated college and have real jobs and everything. Like, so there's so much that's transpired. But then, like, I can't believe it's been that long. Like, I can't believe I keep doing it. So it's like, it's really, I try not to think about it too much. I'm proud of it. I think one of the things about me is I'm very, very loyal. If I'm in with someone, if I'm in with someone, I'm in all the way. And if I'm out, I'm probably out and probably not coming back. That's just how it goes. And, with Ring of Honor being 22 years, and by the day job that I have of, I'm about to hit 25 years. I've had opportunities in both wrestling and that job to jump ship basically to other places. And of course you listen and you entertain things, and you'd be stupid not to. But I have just kept on with these two jobs. It's 47 years combined over two jobs without leaving. That's
That's
kind of
crazy.
cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, I mean, in that time frame, there's so many incredible people that you've been able to ring announce. But like, what from like their early days? Like, was there someone that you were like, oh, that person like hasn't hit their peak yet, but when they do, they'll be a star? I feel like we could probably name those people. Like, I feel like we know who you're gonna say, but maybe you'll come out with like a wild one we don't expect. Who did you know would be a star from the minute they came out through the curtain?
So my brother, siblings usually don't compliment each other, whatever. My brother's like 12 years younger than I am. But he complimented me a couple of years ago, or maybe it's a little longer than that now, since the days of booking Ring of Honor women's stuff. He's like, you have an eye for talent. He's like, I can't believe I want to compliment you, but you have an eye for talent. And I think it's just a natural thing, or maybe it's just experience where I sit there and I'm like, yeah, this person has it and this person doesn't. But now I'm a ring announcer, it really doesn't matter what my opinion is.
No, it matters.
I mean,
you're there ringside to see everything. You're calling everybody. You're able to take in what the crowd's reacting to and not reacting to.
Oh,
so to me, you're another person that's another piece in the puzzle to make everything work.
I do get that feel from the crowd stuff, especially during the Joe and Danielson days, CD back in those days of Ring of Honor. I definitely could feel crowd stuff, and I'd be like, okay, they're into this, they're not this, whatever. It's like, it's weird, but Steve's right. I'm out there for a whole night, night after, back then it's probably 2 weekends a month for Ring of Honor, in front of a lot of people. No one was really drawing outside of WWF, WWE, and TNA. No one was drawing like Ring of Honor was. So, it was really, really special stuff. I would say, I don't know how far back my memory will go, but Jay White was definitely one. I remember Jay White when he came in. New Japan had basically sent Jay White to ROH to get some seasoning and so forth. And I'm like, Jay White, the Jay White I met then is different than the Jay White of today and the Jay White of the New Japan success and everything. But he just evolved, and you could just see he had something. Adam Page was another one, although I will admit I didn't think he'd be Hangman Page like this, like a megastar. But he was one when we'd run down south or, Virginia shows and so forth. He was just this happy-go-lucky kid that came out with a baseball cap and a John Deere tractor, I think, a baseball cap, and did his thing as Adam Page. And then to see in Ring of Honor the transition to Hangman, and then obviously what he has been now and what he's meant to AEW has been amazing. So I think I thought he would be really good, but I didn't think not that I didn't think he would be what he is today. I just didn't see it then. Like it's amazing now.
Well, and it's even like when I first started in Ring of Honor, like the production value is not what you see, and it never was for Ring of Honor that AEW has, that WWE has. So it's right, and it had its own style, and there was a place for that type of production value. But then when you see, Jay White, Hangman, you see Mox come out, and it's the music and the theatrics of it, that adds a whole other element to someone's presentation that you're not going to see if those elements aren't there.
I agree. Speaking of the production, I used to have arguments. Not so much when Carrie owned it, because Carrie Silkin did really, really good things for Ring of Honor. First of all, he saved Ring of Honor from possible real problems, but he did invest, the light towers. He did invest in new audio systems. Obviously, he had, he didn't cheap out on talent and so forth. When Sinclair Broadcast Group bought Ring of Honor, I had some misgivings, I guess is the way to put it. Like, I had some real issues. The first TV taping we did in Chicago was an absolute disaster. In Chicago, the Frontier Fieldhouse in Chicago Ridge was a stronghold for Ring of Honor. Some of our best houses over the years. And, easily top 3 as far as consistent houses every time we went there.
Chicago,
and yeah, except the traffic. But we would have we'd do a match in 15 minutes in between because people are in the truck. I don't know what they're doing. Like we had some personnel issues. I think is what ended up happening. Production wise, that's why when you mentioned production we work with today in the past several years or whatever, oh my gosh, we have some of the brightest minds and some of the most talented people in that truck every week, or in my ear producing me and the commentators. With I so spoiled now, but I went to people in Ring of Honor Power. Not even Hunter and I always had a great relationship. It wasn't even him. It was more the management. And I said, listen, you have for years, Ring of Honor has had some of the best, if not the best in-ring talent in the world. And making them look like shit because the production's terrible. Why can't, if you bought the company, why can't you invest some money into making the production better? I'm not saying it even has to match the in-ring talent, because I don't know if that was possible at that time, but at least, make things better. And I think they did. We did do I have very few complaints about even a terrible time like COVID where we taped the women's tournament. There's no crowd, but we had the big setup with the screens and all that stuff. We had the jib cam. We had all the bells and whistles to make things look good. But it was for a long time there. When Sinclair first bought the company, I'm like, man, you guys, you have this great talent that's busting their ass. And it's the reason that Ring of Honor has the name that Ring of Honor has, but you're not backing it up with the production and so forth. Some of our early TVs on the Sinclair syndication and stuff, just man, it wasn't pretty. And I was
so
glad
funny you say that, because I just had a conversation with Tony Khan a couple weeks ago about I'm a Ring of Honor kid. I'd love to be back in Ring of Honor. I have no problem wrestling on Ring of Honor. And I was like, we have so much footage. And he was like, I know, and it wasn't even crappy, footage. We have HD footage of you at Ring of Honor. And I just thought oh my gosh, I didn't even, so when I first started wrestling, I didn't know what Ring of Honor was, you know, and I've only now gone back and watched, you know, old tape that's not HD, right? And so that's such a funny thing to say to somebody, is like, no, we have the HD footage of you.
Well,
or to compare like what we're working with now to some of that like those first DVDs, those first, you know, pay-per-views. Like,
the thing that went on my ass sideways was the previous kind of TV deal we had was with HDNet, right? Where we and that was at the time owned by Mark Cuban, which I think today is Access TV, ironically enough. But HDNet, HDNet was, everything was in HD. And they're like, wow, okay, they don't have great distribution, but you know, they had DirecTV, whatever, but everything was in HD. So we go to Philly and tape in HD, and it looked really, really good. And then a mega conglomeration of this broadcast company purchases us, and our first TVs are like, what I mean, I don't know what happened. We went backwards, basically, is what the problem was. And I'm like, no, this is, especially in wrestling, as you both know, like going backwards is probably never a good idea.
Yeah.
And I could say too, with being TNA, being at TNA Wrestling for so long now, almost 5 years, getting there during the Access time period of Impact days where production was always hounded upon, like, we need to get better production. We have, like you said, that with ROH, you have the quality of wrestlers. Now we have to bring the production level to make it look even more impressive on camera. And it's just, it's funny how you just see it all over the business, no matter where you go, and you just learn from those mistakes. And it's just cool to hear that you already had that mindset, even then, looking at the product, like, listen, we have something here. We need to up the ante.
Yeah. And you talked about this, and obviously I want to get in it because it's like super personal to us, but you talked about the women's tournament during COVID and how COVID kind of changed that production element and stuff. But I've kind of been on record a few times talking about how the Women of Honor division that I stepped into in 2015 felt so much like a vanity project more than the company wanting to have women's wrestling a part of it. And I used to fight and plead with Joe Koff and Todd Sinclair and Hunter to invest in women's wrestling. And so, I don't know, I wanted, knowing you were coming on the podcast, to ask, like, what was the vibe backstage from your point of view and the people that you were friends with when it was like, okay, we're going to kickstart Women of Honor again? Like, how did Ring of Honor internally feel before we got there?
I think there were very, very high hopes for Women of Honor. I mean, obviously, Women of Honor was a subsidiary of Ring of Honor, but it had its own logo, if you remember correctly. You know, we did that women's only show. I think it was in Baltimore. Before the afternoon of Ring of Honor at night. I don't know what happened. Ring of Honor had never had a women's division before it tried to do Women of Honor, right? They would have random women's matches. Even someone great like Sarah Del Rey, she wasn't in a division in Ring of Honor. She just had women's matches randomly thrown out there. So I think Women of Honor was an initial attempt, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I was never involved in any of these conversations. I know about getting it going or anything like that, which made what happened later for me sweeter. But I don't think it was a lack of effort. It was obviously a problem with execution. I don't know why. I really don't know why it fell flat. I had even told a couple people like that were involved with Women of Honor. I'm like, you know, maybe present it completely differently. You know, even though I had no say in booking or anything like that, I said, for example, I had a ring announcer who was I hate to use the word backup, but he was my backup. You know, when I couldn't make shows, I had confidence in him to go out and do good things, which is, I hadn't had a Ring of Honor before. You know, at that time, my daughters are playing different sports or whatever, so I could miss, not TV, but I could miss a house show or something, and I had confidence in him to go out and perform. And I'm like, And I said to a couple of people, Women of Honor, I'm like, well, why don't we make him the Women of Honor ring announcer? You know, like, so it has a different, just little things. It's a different logo, different ring announcer. You know, I didn't know who was going to commentate it at the time, you know, but so I was like, just trying to throw that out there. And I told, no, absolutely not. If we're going to do this right, you need to ring announce it just like you do Ring of Honor, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to help, trying to come up with something to make the presentation sound and look a little different. And that was pretty much the only thing I ever said when it came to Women of Honor.
Yeah. Okay, so then you get to do that. Just a couple, I mean, okay, so Ring of Honor, Women of Honor kickstarted 2015. COVID hits 2020. You do get that say.
Well,
and so what was it like for you bringing in all of those women, doing a not Women of Honor championship, but a Ring of Honor Women's World Championship tournament? You know, I've talked again on this podcast, you know, actually we opened up season 2 of Boots to Boots talking about me coming back to Ring of Honor, winning the Women's World Championship, what that meant to me, and you and Maria fighting for that. So what was that like, taking on that role then?
So I have to digress briefly. There was a little bit of a change in booking for Women of Honor at Madison Square Garden event.
Mm-hmm.
Once that 3 count took place that night for the title change, the couple of people that were booking Women of Honor were done. Didn't want to do it anymore. And I went to, I don't know if I went to Joe Koff, but I definitely went to Greg Gilliland, who I don't have much use for, who's a general manager. And I said, listen, I said, I brought this up before. I said, give me the women's division. Just give me the women's division and we'll do something with it. And he said, oh, I think we're just going to put it in the committee. Like, you know, Hunter was the booker, but there were a little committee that they would have, 4 people, 5 people, I don't know what it was. And they were going to put the women now under that. Mm-hmm. So that's how that went up until COVID. And as you know, they came back. First thing they did was bring back the pure title. And then I had heard rumblings that starting in 2020, they were going to 2021. They were going to, I'm old, do something with the women. So I called Hunter and I said, listen, I've said this before. I'm not going to beg, but just give me the women's division. I'm like, other than begging, I'm kind of pleading. I said, I know I can do something with it. As a team, we can do something with it. Just give me the reins. Mm-hmm. At that time, I found out, he told me that Maria, who was going to be done with WWE or TNA? I lose track of her. She goes back to
WWE.
Yeah. WWE. Okay. It's going to be done there. And she had reached out to him and expressed interest in getting a women's division going the right way, as well as Jonathan Gresham as well. So I'm like, oh, 3 people. Okay.
And also, just to like, not to interrupt you, but I think at this same time, I had just verbally agreed that I would sign at TNA, but I had not signed yet. And Hunter had reached out to me and said, we're creating a foundation with Gresham, and I think that you would be a really great part of that. We want to revamp this women's division. And I was like, oh, like, that sounds incredible and like right up my alley and everything I'm looking to do. But I literally just like verbally agreed to sign a contract with TNA. And so I can't, out of good faith, say yes. However, maybe there's like something you could work out with Scott.
So, it's like you're just leading me. It's beautiful.
Is that what my job is?
So Maria, at the end of 2020, Maria, Gresham, and I get on a call. And like, to me, it was a little uneasy because like, is it going to work with like the 3 of us trying to do the right thing? And you know, it's like, can there be too many cooks in the kitchen, so forth? Right. Gresham through Jordan came up with the first 4 that we were going to bring to TV in January to revamp this women's division. because we needed to bring in outside talent. That was one thing I was like, I would not give up on. I said, and it wasn't a slap in the face to any talent that's ever competed in a Ring of Honor ring before. But the way Women of Honor went and the way it ended, like a little before COVID, like it just had a stink on it, kind of thing, you know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if people are going to take this seriously, we need to bring in outside talent. Talent that's never performed in a Ring of Honor before. And so Gresham suggested Roxy, Lanny Luck, Max the Impaler, and Hyan.
Mm-hmm. So
those are the first 4 we brought to TV in January of 2021. I was like booking things. It was kind of weird because Gresham wasn't really involved with the booking of things, but he had good intentions and like wanted to be. But I don't know. Like I think I remembered him saying to me or something they kind of deferred to me because out of respect for all my years in Ring of Honor, which is very nice. But if we could find a way to work together on this, then it would benefit everybody. But he was cool with it. He knew of these 4, and especially through Jordan.
Yeah.
So the first match we did, because we created Women's Division Wednesday, that would air every Wednesday at 7:00 on Ring of Honor YouTube channel. We did a tag, and I went back and forth on my mind on this when I was putting this together, but I decided to do a 15-minute draw. And to me, it's like okay, this is anticlimactic. We're bringing in 4 very well-known indie performers to come into Ring of Honor for the first time to restart this division. But then after 15 minutes, the bell rings and there's no winner. But to me, I stuck with my original idea because when is the last time a women's match in Ring of Honor went 15 minutes? Number one, right?
Number one.
In my mind, this was any fan that was going to give this a chance was going to see something they never saw in Ring of Honor before, which is 15-minute competitive back and forth match, basically, in the women's division. But also of those 4, I wasn't familiar with them except scouting them on YouTube once Gresham had recommended them. Like, none of them had to take the loss, right? It's like, okay, I don't want to hurt anybody here because I'm getting to know them as well. Maria's getting to know them as well. So it worked out really well. I think it was pretty well received. And then we kind of just took it from there. We taped in March. We brought more talent. And then, we were taping chunks at a time because of these COVID tapings. Yeah. And it was leading to Best in the World in July 2021, where decided Maria was going to announce a tournament. And so on the pay-per-view, she's in the ring with Quinn McKay, and she announces we're going to have a women's world title tournament, which she was the face of this revamped women's division as the head of it, basically. But she was also on screen like a board of directors member, like an authority figure. So it made perfect sense. And then we taped that tournament the 2 or 3 days after that pay-per-view. And I have a Deonna story about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's what all of this was prefacing, because I think I'm correct. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Rox won the title.
Oh, you're going way fast now. You're going way fast.
We got to keep this moving
all night. We're fast forwarding to Rox wins the title, and also we're talking about me. Okay, so
but real quick, I'll be really quick.
Let me
be real quick. Deonna, don't be Deonna for a second. Okay. Leading up to the tournament, I wanted you for the tournament. I thought with the unfinished, you know this story. Now it'll come back to you. This is why I'm pressing so hard to tell this story. I wanted Deonna Purrazzo in the tournament because of the unfinished business you had with the previous regime and the previous women's division of Ring of Honor. I didn't want to just bring in someone random. I wanted someone that it made sense. So I got communication with Scott Demore, and I said, can we make this happen? We'll make it mutual beneficial somehow, whatever. How can we make it happen? And Scott, I like Scott a lot. Scott had his heart set on Briscoes and Good Brothers for a long time.
Yeah.
So he came to me and he said, okay. He said, how about this? I'll give you Deonna for the tournament, but I get Briscoes and Good Brothers. We'll do it once at TNA. We'll do it once at Ring of Honor, whatever. So I passed it along to Hunter, and Hunter's like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. He's like, you can make any deals you want to, any trades, any free agent sign, whatever you want to do with the women, but I really don't want to get into moving the Briscoes around and stuff. So it didn't happen, obviously, with you in the tournament. Fast forward to leading up to the tournament. I'm like, we were revealing the brackets on the Best in the World pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a splash, I guess to say. So I'm like, okay, if I can't have Deonna, who has this history in Ring of Honor, what do we do? And up comes Chelsea's name.
Yeah.
And
but her arm was broken.
Chelsea gets hurt. Chelsea, though, had texted me a week or two before the pay-per-view and said, hey, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? Because the week after our pay-per-view, I knew she was going to re-debut at TNA or Impact, I guess. I'm sorry. Re-debut at Impact. And I'm like, oh, man, we're going to get beat to the punch because whatever. She texts me. She's like, I just heard from WWE. They'll let me out of my non-compete early so I can go to Ring of Honor. I'm like, are you kidding? She said, no. So I said, okay, do it. I said, we need it in writing, blah, blah, blah. She gets it. She's her. So Maria says, well, what are we going to do for the pay-per-view? I said, we still have Chelsea come out. She's going to cut a promo and say she's going to do commentary for some of the matches in the tournament, blah, 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 whatever. Maria said, I don't think that's enough, because she knew I wanted to make a big splash with this. She's like, I don't think it's enough. I said, I think it's going to be good. When you see all the names on the brackets and the matchups, and then Chelsea as a surprise, it's going to be fine. It went over great. Social media was great. Fans loved it live. Yeah. And I've said this, I probably said this to you, D, before, and to Maria's credit, this has only happened a few times where we've had disagreements. And disagreements mean you both give a shit, right? So you're trying to get the right thing. And that night in the hotel, I remember it was like midnight. I'm sitting in the hotel and I got a text from her. She's like, you were right. Because she saw it and realized how it all unfolded and so forth. So I always give Maria credit for that, because it's happened a few times, but you don't have to do that. You just move on, right? Like, oh, you don't have to say you were right. I don't think I would do that.
She's great. And like I said, like every time I've talked about eventually like coming to Final Battle, was it 2021, and then ending up wrestling Rock for the title, and I always talk about how thankful I am for you two fighting for that and being able to finally make that deal with Scott, because it was unfinished business. And like I have a replica of the title right here. The minute that they handed it,
I need a replica of that.
The minute they handed it to me, I remember looking at the referee and then looking over and just like being so overwhelmed with like gratitude, and also like this just felt like the fairy tale moment that I never thought I was gonna get. I never thought I was gonna be welcomed back into this company. I never thought that like I was ever going to win this. And it's not like the shitty Ring of Honor, Women of Honor championship. It's like a Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. And it just solidified like a really weird 7-year cycle that wouldn't have been possible without you and Maria fighting for it. So
I don't, if you would have asked me before we found out in October of 2020 what was going to happen at the end of 2020 to Ring of Honor, and I just hot shot an idea. I remember texting you the week before and said, do you have anything next weekend? And I think you said you had something in Wisconsin, and said, but what are you thinking? And I said, this is what I'm thinking. And of course you loved it. And I reached out to Scott, and I think by that Tuesday we had it done, which was awesome.
It was so awesome. The match, I mean, Roxanne Perez, whatever you want to call her, like was so phenomenal then, let alone what she's doing now. And that match, it was crazy because it was the main event of a TNA Impact for the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, while I was also the AAA Reina de Reinas champion. And so to have all of those things come together, and then I'm wrestling like this crazy, like ahead of her time wrestler who went toe to toe with me, and we just told such an incredible story. Like, yeah, it was a fairy tale come true. And especially during a period of time where like we didn't know what Ring of Honor was going to become. And so like,
and then now what it's become, because then you can fast forward, like AEW bought ROH.
Yeah.
And when TK bought it, like, what was that for you? Like, did you have any indication that you might still be in the position you're in now once AEW did buy Ring of Honor?
So, just a quick rewind. By the way, D, I never thought I'd ever announce an Impact / TNA, and now here I am announcing you and Roxy and you winning the Women's World Title in Dallas on an Impact TV. It was just really weird. But
it was so crazy.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, to Steve's question, so I heard no rumors or anything. And I think that day they put out AEW put out something that TK had an announcement that night, and I'm like, oh, please just let it that he bought Ring of Honor. Like, what else could it be? Like, I don't know. It's like, but when he announced that, I was like, oh, thank God. Not even know if I had a job or anything, but I just knew there were other suitors for it, and it probably would have become a library. Probably. I'm not saying, I definitely think if it went to WWE, it probably would just become a library. There were a couple of other people involved that may have kept it going in some way. But when that happened, and so the real funny story was they had already announced Supercard of Honor. Like, the Ring of Honor under Sinclair broadcast group, like chopped down Ring of Honor, was going to run that weekend in suburban Dallas for a Supercard of Honor.
Yeah.
And so Hunter asked me if I wanted to do it. And then they said something like, for UD, I don't know if they ever talked to you about it or stuff, but like they didn't contact me or Maria. And it was like, I think Greg Gilliland's idea, this idiot, was going to have like a poll. They wanted like a poll of people, women, list 4 or 5 women wrestlers, and whoever gets the most votes is who challenges Deonna Purrazzo at this show for the world title. And I'm like, how? I'm like, oh, you never heard this? Yeah. So I'm like, after coming off the success we had in 2021, I felt like such a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So Hunter said, do you want to ring announce this show? And I said, sure. And I gave him a ridiculous price, right? So like all of our contracts ended in 2021, that if our contract ended, we were done. It would be a per day thing. And I gave them a ridiculous price because I knew I could be done with the Ring of Honor at that point. That was like, I was done. The way it ended with Sinclair Broadcast Group and everything, I was done. They really screwed over a lot of my friends, that relocated from up here down to Florida and stuff. And with literally no notice, your contracts are done. I'm like, I didn't want, personally for me, because of the day job, it wasn't a huge effect for me financially. It was really the end of our women's division and what we had built, but it was also like friends of mine who had families and made, investments. And now we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? So I just had a bad taste in my mouth from that management, that ownership group. So I gave him a ridiculous price. And then maybe right after TK bought it, the week after, Hunter was actually the in-between, the go-between between Ring of Honor and AEW. And he reached back out to me. He's like, hey, now that Tony bought it, do you want to do Supercard? I said, yep, absolutely. And he said, okay, literally, they said, okay, this is what they offered to pay you. And it was half of what I had asked for Ring of Honor, the old Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I thought everything went well. And then the next week was my first time on Dynamite, because it was FTR and the Bucks for the AEW and AAA tag titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it was in Boston. So I was talking I was talking to the Bucks, and they're like, oh, we should have you ring announce this match, basically. Since it's, now that TK owns Ring of Honor, and it's a Ring of Honor tag title match. So that was the first time they did one of those. And somebody somebody had asked about me being their personal ring announcer. I wanted to do like the old Corino gimmick. It was an old ROH guy who was now in AEW. And I said, yeah, man, whatever works. I thought I was done, so
Yeah.
and I went to QT Marshall and said, hey, they ran this idea. He's like, but you're really expensive. That's what QT said to me. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, that price that you had given. I said, no. Hold on. I said, that's the Sinclair Broadcast Group price. That's not. And he's like, oh my God. He's like, I don't think Tony knew that. I think he thought that was like what you charge per night, and which is what I told Sinclair Broadcast Group was ridiculous for a ring announcer.
Well,
I mean,
Sure. That's how you fight for yourself.
You screw with people, that's
Like-
what you get. Like,
well, that literally Hunter says they're not going to pay that. It's literally half our budget for the show. And but I was just like, it just showed I didn't want to do it, right? So,
what? Yes, yeah,
but so then QT and I talked a little bit, and we've always gotten along. And he's like, all right, that makes so much more sense. He's like, let me go back to Tony and say, okay, this is what it would be, or whatever. So, but for several months, all I did basically was show up at Dynamite or Battle of the Belts. There was no Collision yet, or Rampage, and do Ring of Honor title matches. I was back to like the Corino stuff. I would just go in and do one match a night and which was awesome. And then TK always took care of me with that. He was really TK. Yeah, TK was really cool with that.
Well, that Super Card of Honor, they tried to get me to
Yes.
defend the title and ultimately drop it right back to Ring of Honor. But there was like conflicts in TNA was also running a show that day, and we were doing Multiverse, whatever it was.
The one in California.
It was in Dallas, and I
Dallas.
wrestled Fabio
Dallas,
Patrick,
yeah.
and so they did the interim title, and then I knew that it would become like, okay, I'll go to Dynamite and drop the title to whoever becomes the champion then. And again, I thought it was so special. You were the ring announcer for that Ring of Honor match, Ring of Honor Women's World Championship on the main event of Dynamite, while I don't work for AEW. And again, just like one of these so crazy full circle moments of like, if you would have asked, 21-year-old Deonna, who on a whim, Mandy Leon asked her to like come train at the Ring of Honor dojo in Pennsylvania to hope that they'll maybe one day give us a match, is now bringing this title that was also a figment of no one's imagination in 2015 to the main event of the hottest new wrestling company in the world. It was just like, holy shit, what is my life? Like, I don't even know how I got here, because I didn't even know Ring of Honor existed before 2015.
and
it's like, I was wrestling every month, the first Friday or Saturday of every month with my company that I started training with, D2W, at a little VFW that fit 75 people. And when they asked me and Mandy to come to that show to do the first Women of Honor match in Baltimore, I had to cancel something that my training school was doing. And I remembered the trainer there at the time that he owned D2W called me and was like, how could you ever cancel on me? Like, I trained you from day one you're going to go do this like little indie thing, Ring of Honor. And I was like, wait, this is actually like a huge opportunity. And he tried to get me to say no to Ring of Honor. And 10 years later, former world champion, current pure champion, like, could you imagine if I said no? Because my
that match on Dynamite was in the same building where you crashed Final Battle in 2021.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh my God.
just really weird.
Really
quick story on the
Wrestling gods.
Quick story on that. They wanted you to do that Supercard, the TK's first pay-per-view right after you bought Ring of Honor or whatever.
Yeah.
I had never met TK before. And I was sitting in the back of the room. What are you mumbling to?
We're arguing over there.
Sorry.
You go ahead. You're sitting in the back of the room.
I was sitting in the back of the room production meeting for this pay-per-view. And now I'm working at least for one night for Tony Khan, right? And I remember him bringing up the Mercedes Martinez and Willow match and how he's like, is the belt here? He's like, Scott said the belt would be here, whatever. So to have an interim champion. And I'm thinking, as I'm sitting in this production meeting, I'm like, this PK fucking hate me right now, because the reason that title is not. And the reason we have to do an interim champion, the reason the belt's not here right now, is because Bobby Cruz went and put the title on someone who's contracted to another company. So I'm like, oh my god, it's like, is this going to be it for me? Like, is TK going to be just so like, what the hell were you doing, kind of thing? Even though for TK, I'm a ring announcer, I would assume he had to know, between Maria and I, that we put the belt on someone who's contracted to Impact at the time. But again, the whole point was
it all
just to
worked
keep
out so much better for me.
Because then you wouldn't drop the title off. You still went to the show and dropped.
Yes, absolutely. I raced all over Dallas to get that title there, and then someone raced it back to me, and it worked out that it was in Baltimore and it was full circle. But talking about production meetings, Steve and I wanted to throw it back to you and kind of bring us through like a morning preparing for AEW to be the ring announcer. Like, what does that preparation look like for you?
So the most fun I ever had in my announcing career. So I always tell people, my daughters know this, anyone that's close to me knows this. The most fulfilling year of my wrestling career was 2021 because of what we did with that women's division. That was so personally rewarding. And then obviously to see, you look at that roster and the amount of women from that roster that are on TV today, no matter what company, it's crazy. So that was very fulfilling for me. But the most special, as far as if I separate just as my ring announcing career, the most fun I've ever had and the most fulfilled I ever felt ring announcing was the 3.5 months I filled in on Collision a couple of years ago. Because I always wanted to do live cable TV. Ring of Honor had said we'd do it, fell through, said we'd do it, fell through, happened a few times. And now here was this opportunity given to me to fill in for a few months, kind of like interim. And the most fun I ever had, knowing that I was showing up at a Collision venue and I was the one ring announcer in the building that day. Yeah. And it was like, okay, we could do 15 ROH before and after. But then Collision in between that. There were times I did 18, 20 matches in a night, but I was like, I loved it. Like, the more, the better for me. Like, you would think after all these years, I'd be like, I don't want to do another. Like, I'll decide. Well, I'll decide when I'm done. I hope the decision isn't made for me. But so to me, it really depends. To go back to your question, it really depends. If it's for roster, whether it's Ring of Honor or AEW, it's really easy. You're just waiting for the matches, and I know Deonna Purrazzo is Hackettstown, New Jersey, and I know Trish Adora is Washington D.C., and I know Claudio Castagnoli, Lucerne, Switzerland. It's the extras, but it's also some of the like CNLL talent, that comes in, New Japan talent, whatever. It's that's when it gets a little more involved.
You got to learn teams that day and where they're from.
Yeah, and exactly. So there's a spreadsheet that we have that has pretty much all of the vitals for everyone that's ever appeared in AEW. But there are a lot, especially when it comes to ROH now, that are not part of that. So I am going to talk to talent, or if I can't get to talent, I find the coach for that match and say, hey, can you get me this information and text it to me because I'm going to be out at the ring. Or, sometimes I'll just have to Google hometowns and so forth. So it's I'm very precise. You don't want to screw up. I don't want to do Isla Dawn's name wrong, but you want to be right on the money as possible. I treat everything as live, even though, Ring of Honor is, except for the few pay-per-views we do a year, everything is taped and you can always go back and fix it. I hate that. It just creates more work for people in Nashville and post-production. I don't want to be the reason that more work is added to people. So I always try and be as precise and accurate as possible. But, it's once you've seen, we hang out we would hang out on Collision days or whatever. It's, get there at call time, maybe grab something to eat. I have a sound check, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours later. And then it's just like, okay, wait. It's like
Yeah.
struggle. Like I struggle sometimes. I'll go for walks around the neighborhood, around the arena, whatever, because I'm just like, hey, what am I gonna do? It was
Yeah, it's
easier.
that nervous energy of just like I need to be preparing for something, but
Yeah,
there's
just
nothing to
wanted to-
prepare for yet. That's so funny.
but not yet. Right. In your mind, you're
Yeah.
prepared, but you don't know what you're prepared for because you
Right.
don't know yet. So it's been even a transition in the past 4 years since TK bought Ring of Honor. Because when he first bought it, my daughters for the first couple of years were still in college playing college sports, and I could be there sitting in the announcer's room, watching a stream of their games or whatever,
Right.
and they've passed the time that way. But now they're both out of college. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know. I want to go
Yeah.
visit a pet shelter or something.
Well, you say that, and we've had moms on episodes before where they talk about being a mom in the business and having to deal with that. And you're a girl dad. So how have
Mhm.
you dealt with that then outside of the ring and trying to live that life and being a good and with parenthood in general? And then also, how has parenthood helped shaped you in your career?
It's definitely made me a better person. I I did not have, in my opinion, the best father. And my mother, she from like junior high on for me, she battled like depression, mental illness, and so forth. Still very close to her to this day. She only lives in right outside of Providence, like 45 minutes from me. So I'll go help her clean her apartment, do her groceries. But I haven't had any communication with my father in years. And before that, it was years. The only reason I did years ago is because his mother passed, and I went to the funeral. Um, just so my thing was kind of easy for me. I was like, I want to be the complete opposite of that. I want to
Yeah.
be the father that my girls can come to with anything, can depend on me for anything. And it's been you know extremely rewarding. I'm very fortunate. I have two very very good girls who are polite, kind, and you know, I told them when they went to college, I said, I don't want you guys graduating with thousands and thousands of dollars in college debt. You know what I mean? Like 40 years old, still paying college loans, trying to build a family or whatever. So I always told them, I said, as long as you keep grades up, I didn't even say necessarily dean's list, which they always did, but I said, keep grades up. I'll pay college. Like that's it.
Oh,
Like, and
that's awesome.
that's what I've used. That's what I used a lot of my ring announcing money from over the years was to pay that down for them. So, but it's just I'm very close to both of them. They're both very athletic and both very smart, smarter than me. But they're also very different in their own ways, but they're also very close. So it's and most of the time growing up, they lived with me most of the time.
Mhm.
So I'll never forget my older daughter Sarah, who's the ice hockey player. When she went away to prep school um, years ago up in upstate New York, I think I sat there the first night just crying. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? They talk about empty nest and oh, it's great, whatever. Once you get used to it, by the way, it is great. I'm just gonna say, but um, in the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's one, and my younger one, Kenna, is like 2.5 years younger than her, so I'm like, this is, and then because of COVID and classes and all this stuff, they graduated like a year within each other, so it was like it all kind of started to happen at once, but
Yeah. It's always
it's
so fun
just
when you bring them to shows because they are like what he says, they're like
They
so
enjoy it.
sweet and kind and like, and obviously now I've seen them around for so many years and kind of like sporadically watched them grow up, but like they are exactly how he's describing them.
Have they ever tried to like, I don't know, get the itch to maybe get into wrestling?
so no. Um, although Sarah, my older one, years ago, Sumi Sakai pulled me aside. She's like, "I'm going to train her." I said, "No, you're really not." Like she said, I think she like realized it was bothering me, and she started really busting my balls. Anytime Sarah was at a show, she'd bring her right to me. So I'm going to train her. I'm going to train. No, no, please don't train her.
That's so funny.
And yeah, and so no, thankfully, in my opinion, it's just I don't want that. Um, But and Sarah over the years, especially with hockey, has had a few concussions, so that would be a bad idea. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting too. Like guys like people like Bolt Cabana, For example, I mean, he met my daughters when they were like single digits, like, so young back in the days at shows and stuff. And now to see them now, I mean, they're very close with Jay Lethal. We've gone to do different things with him. They're very close with Cabana. Also Roddy, like they both love Roddy and he loves
Yeah.
them. So yeah, really some special things over the years that you see.
And that's what's so fun. Like, we have Josh and Jen, who we're so close with Josh Alexander, and I know you have known Jade forever, Jen. We're so close with their kids, and like, yeah, to get to when it feels like a family, and you feel like you can bring your young kids around. Like, it's so fun. Steve and I have like 11 nieces and nephews, so we call ourselves like the ultimate aunt and uncle anyway. And so to kind of like take on that role at work, it just brings out a different energy, I feel like.
Yeah. And then it's also fun too, because then it's like the wrestlers take over for the parent that day. And just like, we know you want your time alone to do whatever you need to do to have an easy day. We'll take care of the kids.
Yeah. I mean, even now, like Sarah will go to me to like a collision day, and I don't know where I'll do a sound check and she disappears when I go right. She's like, "Oh, I'm in catering with Roddy." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we start to wrap up, we talked about it earlier. You started your career in 1994.
You weren't even born yet.
You're right. I wasn't even born yet. In the spring of 1994.
Wow. I didn't tell you that I didn't tell you my debut. I was 9 years old. So.
Oh my gosh. But realistically, you have been in this industry for, what is it, over 30 years.
30.
And
Look at that. Nuclear New Jersey math.
What?
Oh,
is
the
one piece of advice-
SNHU math. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I speak? Are you ganging up on me? What's happening here?
A little bit. Steve, this is what she does to me at TV. She just bullies me all day.
It's okay. She does it to me here at home. Don't worry. That's why I've been kind of just sitting here listening to you two bicker back and forth the entire day.
Oh, you both ruined my joke. And anyway, at the end of our episodes, we like to ask our guest for one piece of advice. And for you, what would you say to someone who's getting into wrestling and doesn't want to be the wrestler, doesn't want to necessarily be the person that's in the spotlight? They want to be the ring announcer, they want to be the referee, they want to be the producer or the agent. Give them something you wish maybe you would have been told 30 plus years ago.
This is kind of easy because I do get, like, especially Facebook, like, it's people I'm friends with that I don't know, but I get like aspiring ring announcers or new ring announcers in the business, and that's the exact same question. Like, what advice can you give me? My number one, in no particular order, but I always say, listen.
Number one.
Okay, number one is listen.
I don't do that well.
No particular order. Listen, observe, and obviously find a reputable place. I don't know if there's a ring announcing school. I have to always tell people, but for a ring announcer example, that's what I get asked all the time by people. I would say, and it's probably the same for a referee, although referee's a lot more involved, is like just find a reputable place to get some reps. Reps are the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like, Arkady is a perfect example, and she knows it. Like, Arkady, when she first came in, she had done a few indie shows in California or whatever, but she wasn't actually like ring announcer. She thought she was going to be an interviewer and stuff. Like, Arkady then, and she was fine then when she took over like Collision and stuff, or was doing Ring of Honor matches, but like Arkady today, and she's doing shows in Australia and announcing Revolution matches, like, no problem. They like
rock star.
Like, she's been doing it doing it 20 years. You know what I mean? So reps reps are so important. And then, for ring announcers specifically, I just say don't try and be the show. Like, to me, I always describe the ring announcer as like parsley. Like, you have a steak dinner and baked potato or whatever, and the parsley is like just kind of there. Just it does its job. It's like no one's ordering parsley. Like, just no one's buying a ticket. No, just like no one's buying a ticket to go see a ring announcer. Really?
Yeah.
So just kind of know your role, listen, observe, and don't be too over the top. There are times where a ring announcer should and can be over the top for a certain match or whatever. But don't do this stupid shit I see sometimes. These guys doing spins as they announce, or running halfway across the ring to introduce someone. Like, it just like, no, be a ring announcer. Don't be the show, because you're not the show. You're part of it. And you can, at times, I mean, I had several talents over here. Claudio's always been famous for coming up to me and telling me how, and thanking me for a certain intro or whatever, going back years in Ring of Honor. It's just for my part in his match. His match would have been a 25-minute great match, but he came to me and thanked me after because he thought the intro kind of got it going. Or like, just do your thing, and just realize once that happens, then you're sitting there while these talented people in the ring are busting their ass entertaining the people that actually paid to see them, not you.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and obviously you've been doing this for over 30 years, dealing with lots of wrestlers, and it's been a long journey. And so for you, on the journey aspect of it, is like, what has it taught you for life outside of wrestling? Like, not wrestling related at all, but like outside of life, what has the wrestling business taught you?
Wrestling business has specifically taught me, don't get caught up in drama. Don't, like, I think Dee maybe attest to this, because we've had conversations where she's like, this is between you and I, or because I value the friendship we have, and it could be vice versa. I could be the same way. People, I think, know if they say to me, they tell me something, even if they don't say, hey, don't repeat this or whatever. If I infer that it's to me, because we have that relationship, no one's going to them a half hour later or a day later or a week later saying, hey, Bobby told me you said that, or anything like that. I think it's been very useful in wrestling. It's also been very useful in everyday life and in the day job with my beer sales too. I mean, it's just like, you have competitive accounts and this or that, and you just have to kind of stay in your lane. You have, not everyone is best friends, right? It's not reality. It's not reality in life. It's not reality in wrestling. It's not in reality on the Patriots or anywhere. I mean, it's just nobody's not best friends with everybody, but you have certain people, you have certain relationships that you trust and so forth. And then you have other people that you just like say hi when you pass in the hallway or at catering. So I think wrestling has taught me that, because I don't know if I would have had all those interactions just in everyday life, to show up at TV where there's 100, 200 people, whatever we have between in-ring talent, production. I have over the past several years tried to like really appreciate the people behind the scenes. And I wish I did it earlier in my career. Not that I was like rude to them or anything. I just wasn't as appreciative of their talents. And now, like, I'll take the ring crew to dinner, or do this with them, or just make sure I go say hi or thank you to the audio people or whatever. Like, we have a lot of talented people there that, as we discussed earlier, if it's not done correctly, it's going to look and sound like shit. So I really have become appreciative of just those relationships, and as well, just like I said, just kind of staying in your lane, and not getting so caught up in a lot of drama.
Yeah, I think I've been on both ends of those spectrums, and I think it's important to know who your people are and who you can trust, especially in a business that we're all kind of fighting for the same positions, and it does get really selfish and competitive. And I feel like, and I know we wouldn't be married if we didn't both feel this way, but it's like, at the end of the day, hard work will speak for itself. And we both don't believe in stabbing people in the back for the opportunities, or going the he said, she said, because it'll get me ahead. And so, wrapping up here, I think that you're one of those people. I think you know that, but I maybe don't tell you enough because I bust your balls too much about so what? Oh, we have to edit out the bust the balls. I bust your chops too much.
Edit out bust your balls. It's just funny to me.
I was trying to be sweet here, Bobby. I really was, and I'm appreciative of your friendship, all you've done for my career through the years, and that we could have this conversation today on Boots to Boots. So just let me have my sweet little moment, because you won't get another one.
Probably not. Next time I see you, it's probably going to be you're an asshole, and I hate to see you.
Don't say that. I've never called you an asshole.
No,
creep.
not really. Oh my god.
I think people are gonna love this episode. I think it's a really cool. We have a friend Josh who's a big OG Ring of Honor fan, like back in the day, and I just know as you were talking, I'm like, he's gonna love this. So I feel like you brought something super different to Boots to Boots today, kind of tying it back to things we've already talked about. But I don't know how many times you get to be in the spotlight like that and tell your story. So we're really appreciative you trusted us with it.
No, it was really fun. It flew by, and I'm really appreciative of you guys. I was really eager, D, with our friendship, when I knew I was doing the stuff with Impact, we did that stuff in 2022, to meet Steve. I'm like, okay, I got to meet this guy. Like, okay, he's going to be a really good guy. And no, it's really, really good. Really good. Anytime he pops up, it's really good. And yeah, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. My only hope, somebody said to me, I think it was Maria, she's like, you've earned the right after all these years to you decide when you're done. And I alluded to it earlier, and I'm like, but I don't think that's right. It's like, a third baseman doesn't get to dictate, like the team does. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I think I know when I'm going to be done. I just haven't decided yet. It's not next year, I hope. My contract's up in March of 2027. I hope it's not next year. I definitely.
Spoiler for the dirts.
But you have. I agree with Maria for that. And the whole concept of this podcast is figuring out those challenging moments and those identity crises. Yeah. So you do get to choose.
I do, and I have confidence issues sometimes with it too. Like I'm really like third string.
Yeah.
The fuck.
And
I've never been.
He's gonna pee his pants.
I'm third.
You just
like
talked
third.
For so long, Bobby.
I'm third string because it's Dynamite Collision ROH, and I'm the ROH guy. So it's like I would fill in when needed, and it's like it's been an adjustment. But I've always thought I've been a team player, and that's why I'm doing this too, get my story. And I hope, maybe 5 more years. What do you think? 5 more years? 5 more years.
I feel like as long as your heart's in it, and as long as it's something that you're passionate about, then you could do it for 10 more years if you chose to. But I do think your work speaks for itself, and I think your reputation and the legacy you've left in Ring of Honor still matters so deeply to the wrestling community. So I agree with Maria wholeheartedly that you're going to get to pick that.
Can I leave with one last thing?
If you
better be a Howard Finkel impression.
Oh, I could do that too. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you. Okay, I'll do Howard first.
I'm going again. Oh my! It's our Jersey goodbye.
We were on a UK tour at some long bus ride, and PCO. Somebody told PCO that I do Howard Finkel impressions, and this guy, I think he was pissing his pants on this whole bus ride. And I'm like, is it funny or is it good? Are you laughing because it's really good or whatever? So I know Gallows has a reputation for a Howard Finkel impression, but I think I'm going to not do it now. I think I'm going to, I feel a little iffy. So maybe I shouldn't do it, but
we can always edit it out.
Have a spot.
We can put it as a bonus feature if I decide to do it. I'll decide by this weekend.
Put it on TikTok.
But
wait, you need to do it now.
Now you built it up.
You can't text it to us later. You need to do it now, and we'll cut it if it's not good.
Okay, so I'm gonna do it, but the one PCO always popped for was the Howard Finkel, Jake Roberts babyface, and the Jake Roberts heel. Okay. So maybe because I haven't done Howard for so long, it may not be. Oh, that sounds like Howard Finkel. But I always loved the way he would like change if someone was a babyface and a heel. I just had to do this with Jay Lethal recently, and which pisses me off because Jay Lethal babyface is one of my favorite intros.
Don't try to buy yourself time. We're counting you down. Ready?
The following content.
Do you want Jake babyface or heel first?
Whatever your best version of your Howard Finkel impression is.
4.
I'm doing both.
2, 1.
From Stone Mountain, Georgia. 249 pounds. Trip the secret. Now, just so you know, when Jake went heel, it literally became so slow and drawn out. Jake the snake, like that. Very good. I always respected that. So that's one thing Howard taught me. Howard taught me. Nobody else taught me. That's Howard taught me.
Well, thank you. If you decide you don't like it, we can always cut it out. But I think it was
No, it's
great.
perfectly fine. Let it rip. That's perfectly.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying Boots to Boots, let us know.
Lace up your boots and join the conversation.
Like, subscribe, leave us a comment,
And
we'll be talking to you.
you.